Howdy, everyone. I am back. I'm back from the U.S. Mexico border in Texas. Happy to be back, but boy, I got to tell you, I love the great state of Texas. The people there are just amazing. The food is even better. I got to tell you, the food and the prices are to die for. You will never eat a breakfast taco like I ate in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm telling you, you're never going to find it anywhere else in the country, but in the Rio Grande Valley. And I just wanted to do a shout out for all the Border Patrol agents out there, everybody at RGV sector. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being so great and gracious. And for all of you out there that are fighting the good fight along the U.S. border, whether that's in the north or in the south, and for all you law enforcement officers out there, thank you for everything you do. And that's what I'm going to be talking about on the show today, on the Sara Carter Show, because here I want you to understand. I mean, and I don't even know how I'm going to begin to tell this story because I've been doing it for so long, but to really get you to understand the crisis at the border. And I want you to understand that the Biden administration is lying to you. They are lying to you. There is an actual crisis on this border, one that is so significant and one that we have to pay attention to. And it affects not only our national security, but the lives of those migrants that are being used as political ping pongs in this game, in this very, very dangerous game. And I'll explain that to you in a moment. Remember, you can subscribe to the podcast whenever and wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget YouTube, Rumble. You can get everything there. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Parler. Parler is back. It's back. Yay. I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Dan Bongino. Woo. You're a fighter. Let's do it. This is a place where you do not get really censored at all. I mean, of course you want to behave, right? Because certain things obviously will, shut down Parler, certain things. But at Parler, you will be able to communicate and talk and post and, have your own mindset about politics. Remember, you can get all your links at SaraCarter.com. Get them all at SaraCarter.com. And while you are there, please sign up for my email list. Like I said, we get censored. All of us know what that's like now from big tech. So the minute I get censored or the minute something happens, you will not be getting the truth. You will not be getting it from me, at least. And so we have an email list and we'll send you the emails once a week, twice a week. Promise you we will not bombard you with them. And this email list is so that you do not get shadow banned. You will not be shadow banned. Also, if you're like all the other millions of Americans that are frustrated with looking for an alternative to that other senior organization, you know the one I'm talking about. You know that one that tries to send stuff in the mail when you didn't ask for it? That one. And you want to support an organization that takes responsibility for action, then I want you to join AMAC. AMAC is the Association of Mature American Citizens. It is the fastest growing conservative 50-plus organization in America. Look, AMAC believes in the values that have made America so great. That's faith, family, and freedom. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every benefit that AARP offers. That's why they are a sponsor of this show, the Sara Carter Show, but without the liberal agenda. I stand with AMAC, and I hope you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join today at amac.us/Carter. Okay, where do we start? I actually went to New York. I was covering Governor Cuomo doing what they call man on a street, interviewing people on the street in Albany, in the capital of New York. Great place to be, except the weather was unbelievably cold. I got there Monday and I was like, where am I? Am I like in the tundra? Because it was like bone chilling and I was not prepared for that kind of cold. I'm telling you guys, you know that feeling when you go out in the snow or in this bone chilling weather where the wind is literally carrying ice sheets in it and it's like blowing at you? That's the way it felt. I felt like it was piercing my skin and going out the other side. I was just like, okay, somebody put me out of this misery. But the people of Albany are amazing. And they were talking to me. I mean, I was surprised. I was like, how am I going to get these folks on the street to talk about Governor Cuomo. I was like standing in front of his house, the big mansion, the governor's mansion. It's absolutely stunning. It's huge. I thought it was like, well, at first I thought it was an asylum. I was like, are there people like, is this like one of those old asylums or like a haunted house, you know? No, but it was Governor Cuomo's house. I'm sure it's haunting for some people, especially the people that are accusing him of sexual harassment. But it was haunting for me, you know, because I had to stand out there in the cold and there was nobody out in the street. I was like, literally like, where am I going to find a man on the street? Finally, here comes this young gentleman. He's walking down the street and I get him to talk to me. I just say, hey, we got to talk. Let's talk. Here's Governor Cuomo's mansion. How do you feel about the governor? What do you think? I mean, this young guy he was just eloquent. He was brilliant. He just talked about Cuomo like succinctly, said, this guy's got to go. There needs to be an investigation. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the way our leadership is here, you know, in New York. And I'm tired of the way people are being treated. I want to give credit, and before I move on, to Janice Dean. And the reason I'm talking about Governor Cuomo before I go to the border is mainly because, not because I want to give Governor Cuomo or his brother, Chris Cuomo, so annoying, any credit for anything or, you know, put their name out there. It's because of Janice Dean. That's the person I want to give credit to. And I know I've talked about her before, but she works for Fox News. She's a top meteorologist, and she is an amazing human being who has really fought. She lost her in-laws in a nursing home because of Cuomo's decision to put basically elderly, people infected with the COVID virus, recovering from that in these nursing homes. And, a lot of people died. And Janice Dean knew that. And she was going to fight him. And she was going to prove that the numbers that Governor Cuomo and his administration were putting out there were not accurate. The Attorney General of New York did an investigation. You all have seen that, I'm sure. And now you see that Governor Cuomo and his team underreported by 50% the amount of people that had passed away from COVID in these nursing homes. And they also lied and tried to change reports. We know that now. So Janice Dean is my hero. We're going to keep it like that. We're going to put credit where credit is due. Here's somebody who's a fighter. This is what one person can do when they're willing to stand up. Right? What one person can do when you can draw attention. I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that did the same thing. Janice Dean took her position and her public position and made it very public, stood firm, didn't back down. And she did exactly what she had to do to fight Governor Cuomo and expose the truth. So thank you, Janice. Let's move on to the border because I got to tell you, I have spent my career covering the U.S. Mexico border, and it's been one of the most heartbreaking, one of the most frightening, one of the most unimaginable stories, one that is rarely ever told succinctly to the American people. I think like it's difficult for us to comprehend what's actually happening down there, right? What is actually happening at the U.S. Mexico border. There's a convolution of issues. Like it's like a perfect storm. And especially right now, I want to play a clip here about, this is Jen Psaki responding to Texas Governor Abbott's claims about COVID-19 at the border. I want you to hear this.
On Texas, Governor Abbott said that the Biden administration must stop importing COVID into the country because he claims that COVID positive migrants are being bused into Texas and then sent to other places in the country. Do you have a response to that? And can you elaborate on what the government is doing to test migrants, if anything?
Sure. Well, we're about facts around here. That is not factual. So let me give you an overview of what happens. When migrants are placed in alternatives to detention, their COVID-19 testing, our policy is for COVID-19 testing to be done at the state and local level and with the help of NGOs and local governments. And that certainly is something that our policy is to have that be done, concluded before they are even moved to go stay with family members or others they may know while their cases are being adjudicated. And of course, our guidance to anyone, regardless of status, is testing positive for COVID-19 or experiencing COVID-like symptoms is, to social distance, to wear a mask and seek medical attention as needed.
Let me tell you something. Jen Psaki is playing with words and she is not telling you the truth. She is not telling the truth. I was just there. I talked to a number of sources along the U.S. Mexico border. Unless someone is showing symptoms when they take them, they basically turning themselves in. Maybe I should start there so you all understand. I go to the border. I spend time. Junior is amazing. I'm going to throw his name out there, but Junior's a resident out there. He owns private land right on the Rio Grande. I was given permission to go on his property. This way, the government cannot remove me from the property. They don't want us to see what's happening. They don't want to see the hundreds and then thousands of people that are crossing into the United States just in that sector alone. Some nights it's 700, some nights it's 1,000. It just depends. And it's building and building and building. And it's going to be a climax. I mean, we're going to see tens of thousands. And then I guarantee you we'll reach that number of 120,000. I guarantee you we'll reach that number of 120,000 plus migration into the United States, the migrants coming in this year, which is way more than what we saw the years before. And I'm talking about undocumented and unaccompanied minors. It's just incredible when you see this for yourself. I was on Sean Hannity's show for the last 3 days. I've been in Texas, and you actually can see in the clips, you can actually see the kids coming through the border and coming up and talking to me, and they're turning themselves in because they told me that Joe Biden's policy was to keep a window open for 100 days to allow them to come into the United States to gain citizenship, that they would be given amnesty. Now, some of these kids are being used by the coyotes. The coyotes are using them to make it look like there's family units coming in because it's a lot easier to stay in the country if you have a child. So these children are being rented and recycled. Some of the Border Patrol agents have seen some of the kids 3 or 4 times. Imagine that. Imagine being a child and your parents or some relative is like literally selling you so that you could be recycled through the line, right? Brought by a stranger. You don't even know who. And let's talk about the other children that I talked to. A large group of children between the ages of 7 and maybe 17. There was a 13-year-old girl in the group. The rest were all boys. And they traveled all the way from Honduras. They traveled through 3 countries. And by the time they got to Mexico, and some of them were very hungry. They were very hungry. They did whatever they could to survive on the trip. Let's just say that, right? These are children. These are not adults. Some of the kids, granted, some of the young men, it's hard to say. Were they MS-13 gang members? Some of them, I don't know. I didn't see any tattoos on any of the kids that I talked to. I didn't see any indications that they were. They just wanted to get to the United States. Some of these kids didn't even have parents here. They may have had a relative here just hoping for a better life. They use this kind of story right now. Right now, the story is when they come in and they talk to the adjudicators, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They'll say things like, you know what? It's the hurricanes. That's why we're coming in here. But I'm going to go back to Jen Psaki and to the COVID-19 border claim that she said they all get tested. No, they don't. They only get tested really when they show symptoms. And people jump on buses. I'm going to tell you this. They take them. They don't test every single person. It's not like they're testing everybody. The Border Patrol agents are overwhelmed. Their hands are tied behind their back. They got hundreds of people coming in. They can't even guard the other side of the border. They're trying to process all these children on the other end of the border. You could see these long lines right there where I was at in McAllen, right? These long lines over by the border, away from where the city was. People can't see this processing center because this is where the people cross, right? And they're right by the Rio Grande and they're processing them. And then they're going to put them on buses. And where do you take them? Where do you hold them? They've got these big tent facilities, right? I broke those exclusively on Sean Hannity's show. These big tents where they keep the kids and the people until they can get their paperwork to process them, right? Because they got to get their court work to report to court. And then they let them go. They're not sitting there testing everyone. And then they're trying to keep everybody in, make sure that, okay, is this how do they even know that these kids even belong to some of these people? They don't. And then they put the other kids in the other tent. And then those kids are sitting over there. And then there's people with COVID. And guess what? People are being released with COVID because they're not testing everyone. People are getting on buses in McAllen. I saw it. And then they have a testing facility right there, like by the bus. And then sometimes people just come up hot, right? They come up hot for COVID. And it's like, oh, well, what are we going to do with them? Well, we don't know what to do with them. Maybe we got to find a place to put them for a few weeks. And who pays for that? And let me tell you this. What if they end up in the hospital, right? So like there's one instant where somebody was injured. They get to the hospital and then they're COVID positive. They come up hot. So the whole hospital stay, that's being paid for. Somebody has to pay for that, right? So you have the federal government picking up the bill there. But let's say the city takes them all. Let's say they go to Catholic Charities or they go to someplace else in the city before they head out on a bus to wherever land. Guess what happens? They go. They're not tested. They're on a bus with a bunch of other people and they've got COVID. You have all of these migrants, right? All these undocumented, illegal aliens, whatever you want. I know everybody has their own idea of how they want to call them. These are human beings still. And a lot of these people, especially the children, I got to tell you, the children, I can't imagine being 7 years old. And there was a kid that was 7 years old that was traveling with a group of other children and he traveled alone. He had no parents. So I want you to think of your child being 7 years old and just traveling. I was talking to Chris Cabrera and I want to bring this up because I thought he brought up such an important point. It's something I think about often. If you left your child in a Walmart parking lot for the whole day and just went off somewhere and partied or did whatever, went shopping, and your kid was found by the police just wandering around a parking lot, right? Or somewhere unaccompanied, you would probably get arrested. You would probably go to jail. And Chris Cabrera is so you all know, is the union vice president for the Border Patrol. And he said this statement, and he said it for Sean's show. He said it to me during an interview. And I was like, absolutely. We have to look at this situation. It's so complex, but people have to have responsibility for their own children. How is it possible that we're sending parents are sending their children on this dangerous journey? Do you know what the kids told me? The kids said that when they got on La Bestia, which is the train that comes through Mexico, that a lot of times kids disappear off the train. They get harmed by another adult. Maybe they get thrown off the train. Can you imagine that? Sometimes they get thrown off the train. Maybe they survive. They end up in another part of Mexico. Or sometimes they get thrown in between the train carts. And they don't have any identifiers on them. Nobody even knows that they were ever born. And nobody even remembers that they've ever even existed after that. So imagine being a child and going through that and feeling that sense of hopelessness, or maybe hope that you'll make it to America. Maybe you'll find a relative that'll want to take care of you, or maybe a sense of complete and utter fear because you've been sold off to help people get into the United States. And God only knows what's happened to you on that journey. Listen to me when I tell you this, because this is about our children, right? Right? This is about our nation. They're letting all of these people in, and I'm talking about the Biden administration, and they're perpetuating a lie that they're doing this because they care so much about these people. They do not care about the people that are making this journey. They do not care. They know their statements is causing this flood, this crisis. I want to play Jen Psaki right here. I mean, here, Jen Pesky. Okay, I'm saying it. Jen Pesky. Jen Psaki. Here she is avoiding calling this situation a crisis. This is a crisis.
I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but at what point does it become a crisis?
Well, I would say I don't think we need to meet your bar of what we need to call it. We had the Secretary of Homeland Security yesterday conveying it's a challenge. We've provided numbers publicly about how serious that challenge is. We, of course, because we are approaching this humanely and we are approaching this in a way where we will keep the children safe in a great break with the past administration. And because we're doing this at a time of COVID, that is even more challenging because most of these facilities are at 40% capacity, hence the number of beds that are being utilized. But again, we're going to approach this without labeling. We're going to approach this with policy, with humanity, and with a focus on what we can do to keep these kids safe.
Oh my gosh, a challenge. She doesn't want you to know the truth. This administration it's stunning. It's stunning how they are consistently lying to the American public. So while they have made you feel so horrible and berate anybody who doesn't wear a mask, they're letting people just stroll on into the United States, by the way, without identification on them. I saw it myself. In fact, the majority of people that come in don't have identification on them. I saw a lot of people, and the people that I ran into were from Honduras and El Salvador and Guatemala. But there are so many people arriving from other parts of the world. You have gypsies arriving from Romania. You have people coming in from Turkmenistan. You have people coming in from Egypt. You have people coming in from, Afghanistan even. China is huge. There's groups of people that come in from China. And so this border is not just like, okay, it's not like, oh, a nice little stroll to the border. We're going to cross the border and then we're going to, actually, there's a bar near where I was at the border. It's interesting. It's a little side note right here. There's a bar. It's okay. I'm going to tell you whoever it was. It was called Cabrera's Bar. And I was talking to the owner. We were all out there, and Chris actually was the one that was talking to the owner. And it was interesting because he gets all of these migrants, like when they make it across, and this is a few miles out from the border. So when the undocumented guys, the illegals come through, or whoever is with them, whether it's children or women, they show up at his bar because it's like kind of just sitting there. It's like a biker bar in the middle of nowhere, right? How cool is that, right? It's like a great place for a movie set. So it's this kind of cool biker bar in the middle of nowhere. And when he gets there in the morning to open up or to clean up, he finds like all these people just like sleeping in his bathrooms, in like on his patio. It's like, oh, hey, everyone. And he said he used to call, but now he's just like, I don't want to, I want to ruffle any feathers. So they just leave because nobody ever came over to get him. They won't come over and get him. He says they just walk away. They just go, bye. See ya. Have a nice day in America. Welcome to America. Well, I want you to think about it. If all of these people are crossing, what about the people, and think about our Border Patrol agents, right? And our Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers and all the people that are working along the border. If their hands are tied, taking care of all these children, taking care of all these family units that are coming in, and you don't think the drug cartels are using that to their advantage? Who do you think's coming in on the other areas of the border that aren't being monitored? What do you think is happening there? Do you think terrorism is over? Do you think we're done with worrying about the drug cartels or the fentanyl that's coming into the United States and killing our children, or, whatever other types of contraband? If you think these drug cartels have any loyalty at all, and I hate it when people try to tell me, well, because they want to sell their narcotics to, why are they going to allow somebody to come into the United States and attack the United States because their base, their money is here in the U.S. And of course they wouldn't want anything to happen. Do you think a middleman in a drug cartel organization is going to turn down $1 million, to bring something into the U.S.? Or do you think they're going to take the money? They don't have any loyalty. Do you think they really care if one city gets hit and then the rest of the cities are there? People are still going to be addicts. Stop making excuses for the drug cartel. They don't think the same way we do, right? They don't think like we do. They don't have that type of common sense. These are ruthless, evil human beings, ruthless and evil. These organizations, they do unimaginable things to people. and there is a humanitarian crisis at the border, and nobody crosses that border. No one, no organization, and no individual without paying a price to the drug cartels. They control the traffic in and out of that border, the illegal and the legal. They know what's going on, and they operate like a shadow government. That's how they do it. And, I'm telling you, it's just no over exaggeration. It's no over exaggeration. I've traveled there many times. Read the stories about the bodies that are piled up, about what they've done to migrants when migrants haven't paid their taxes. I talked about that on the last podcast. They burned them alive in a truck. I think it was 19 migrants. What if those were 19 children? We don't know. But those are the kids. And this is the making of the Biden administration. This is how, I think the frustration that our Border Patrol agents feel, the feeling that I have, and how enraged I think people are with just the lackadaisical attitude towards this issue, towards this crisis. I mean, and this is just the beginning, guys. This is before the tsunami, right? This is the ripples in the ocean before the tsunami takes over. I want you to listen to this clip. This is Biden. He says he's learned a lot from his border briefing, and he offers no additional info.
Did you receive a briefing about the border today?
Yes, I did.
What did you learn?
A lot.
A lot. What is going on with these reporters? What is this? What is happening here? What is going on here? That they don't follow up on these questions, that they're not like hammering him. Remember what they would do to President Trump? Remember? And President Trump would be like, I'm telling you everything. I'm telling you there's a crisis. I'm telling you this is the reason why I'm passing these executive orders. This is the reason why we've got to stop the flow. This is the reason why we've got to take care of this. There's a humanitarian crisis. We cannot allow this to happen. We should not allow this to happen. We have to care enough to stop this. We have to care enough about our own nation and about these children. I want you to listen to this clip. This is great. This is Democratic lawmaker Vicente Gonzalez. He's slamming Biden's border policies now. So Biden's kind of getting it from the left too.
Well, my concern in the recent weeks in my district, migrants who made it across the border, who even passed the line of MPPs who are 5,000 folks that have been waiting for 2 years across the border, made it across the Rio Grande Valley, were processed and released. If that is the message that we send to Central America and around the world, I can assure you it won't be long before we have tens of thousands of people showing up to our border, and it'll be catastrophic for our party, for our country, for my region, for my district. In the middle of a pandemic in an area where we've lost over 3,000 people in my small congressional district. So I think we need to have a better plan in place. I think asylum seekers should be able to ask for asylum and be processed in their home country or a neighboring country. And we shouldn't have a policy in place that impulses people to make this 2,000-mile trek where cartels and human traffickers are enriching themselves.
He's absolutely right. I've been saying this for years. I've actually been saying this for decades. It's a very simple solution. You stop it. You demand better. You do not allow the cartels and the human traffickers to make money off of human lives. You stop it, and you protect the people of our nation first. And then you hold the other countries accountable for their behavior and for what's happening with their people. Look, we all live in the Western Hemisphere. They're our neighbors. We have to work together. And we don't just dump money into Central America without those corrupt governments changing their ways. And that's the reason why do you really believe that people want to leave their own country? I mean, can you imagine if we all had to pack our bags and start trekking towards Russia or something? I mean, it's so foreign. Or just if we all had to pack our bags and head to Canada and we have to leave everything behind. People don't want to do that. They really, really don't. But the desperation, the political football, the gangs, the rise in corruption, and the corruption goes on all levels. It's not just them. It's our government. Our government is behaving corruptibly. This is not right. What is happening here is not right, and they know it. You know, the sad thing is they know it. Biden has been around forever. He's been a lawmaker. My gosh, too long, right? Too long. And now he's a president. He knows what's going on here. The administration knows. All the same people that were with President Obama are the same people that are with Biden. They know exactly what's going on. Why do you think they're allowing this to happen? You have to ask yourself that question. Why do you think they are allowing this to happen? And that's why, Congressman Gonzalez is right. Look, he's a Democrat. I totally agree with him. I saw what was going on in the Rio Grande, and he's right. 3,000 people in his little area of the Rio Grande Valley have passed away from COVID. And now we're just releasing people into the United States without, a 2-week quarantine, without any type of precautions, without knowing where they're going, without knowing who they really are. We're just saying, okay. And by the way, let me tell you, talking to my sources, they don't even want to deny anybody anything. And I'm talking about people, the adjudicators in ICE, the people at the Border Patrol. They're terrified. They cannot deny anyone entry. They don't want to, they fear the wrath of God on them from their higher ups at DHS. Like Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas and all of them. They are being told, you got to release all these people. I mean, there has to be a reason that is incredible. Like they have to be a terrorist. I'm not even joking for them to hold on to them. They just have to release them. Just release. Don't even question anything. Just release them. They don't want trouble. And the majority of these people don't report back to the courts for their asylum claims. They've got their asylum paperwork, but they're not going to go back to the court. They're like, heck no. Because when I go back to the court and they look at my claim of asylum, they're not going to buy it. It's not going to fall under the law. They're going to send me back home. So once they're in the country, they're free. I want you to listen. This is me at the border on Sean Hannity's show Thursday night.
I think the hardest part today, Sean, was running into the young children. There were children as young as 4 years old in this group. Many of them were traveling by themselves without any adults. Some of them met up with adults on the journey to the United States. All of the children that I ran into were from Honduras. They had been traveling for approximately 3 months. Many of them had spent time on top of the trains. They talked about La Bestia. It's a train that runs through Mexico that the kids jump on top of and try to make their way to the U.S. Mexico border. They told me horror stories about children that had fallen off the train, children that disappeared while they were on the road with them, that this is a real humanitarian crisis.
It's a real humanitarian crisis. And it's just heartbreaking, especially when you're dealing with children. I'm trying to get us as Americans to see this on multiple levels, right? The reason this is not about being anti-immigrant. My mother was from Cuba. She was so blessed and said it every day to come to the United States, where this nation opened its arms to her and her family in the 1960s. And she flew in on the Johnson Freedom flights. So it's a blessing that I'm here, right? First generation on my mom's side American. And I feel blessed for that. I speak Spanish. I understand the plight of the people that I'm talking to, and especially these young children. But I also understand the national security implications that this brings and the failure of our government to do the right thing. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help anyone. You can't argue that with me. There is no argument that makes sense here. This does not help neither the American people nor the poor people that are trying to find a better life. Because, it doesn't resolve the problem. We've seen this over and over again, year after year after year after year, right? The crisis is not resolved. Why? Because we're not tackling the problem, the real problem. And the government should be ashamed of itself. President Biden should be ashamed of himself. Jen Psaki should be ashamed of herself. Because these are real people. These are people. They're not political pawns. They're not, these are children. These are women. These are men who, and by the way, there are some really bad people. Remember Trump, bad hombres. There are some pretty bad hombres in those groups. People are people, This isn't just about the poor. There's people within there that are bad, just like there's people in America that are bad, just like there's people all over the world that are bad. So, when you think of this complex issue, I want you to think about it that way. This is a complex issue. It deserves all of our attention. And we as Americans, let me tell you, the border is not just there. It's not that 2,000-mile border. The border is all the way inside America. None of these people just stay in the border towns. None of the people. They're finding family and sponsors and people that have been here for years that are here illegally as well who are sponsoring them. They're coming to Fairfax, Virginia. They're going to Georgia. They're going to Chicago. They're going to Los Angeles. They're coming from everywhere around the world and they're traveling throughout the United States. And we have a process that is failing because one, we don't even know who they really are. They may never return to court for their asylum claim. Some of them do, but most of them don't. And we don't know if they've passed any kind of health clearance, and most of them haven't. And it's the only danger. And for those that are good, that just are so scared and they come here illegally and then they don't want to ever, they live in the shadows. They live in the shadows. They are being abused, and they may be abusing others just to survive. It's a perpetually bad situation. And we need to come to terms with it. We need to come to grips with it. We need to face it. I want you to listen to this clip. This is Jen Psaki on Friday about unaccompanied minors, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
I think this issue requires us taking a step back as human beings and as mothers, of which I am one. I know there are many in the room or many at home. These kids are coming. They are fleeing prosecution. They are fleeing difficult circumstances in their home country. When they come here, all we're talking about here is ensuring that they are treated safely. They are not trafficked. They are not sent back on a unsafe journey. That's what we're talking about. When these kids come in, it doesn't mean they are ensured that they get to stay. They go through the processing system that everyone goes through. But we want to ensure that that is done by treating them humanely and with respect. Many of them will be sent back home eventually, but we're talking about how we treat them as they come in the country.
Why have this policy? Why doesn't Jen Psaki and President Biden come out and say, we will not allow you to stay in this country. Please do not make this journey. Do not allow your children to make this dangerous journey. This is unacceptable. When they arrive to the border, they will be processed in Mexico. We've already worked that out. Remember, we had that with Lopez Obrador and President Trump. And then we will return them home. Why don't they say that? Why are they letting them come all the way in? Why are they perpetuating this to the point where the children that I spoke with all knew who Biden was and all thought Biden was inviting them to the United States? Why is that perception there? Because they made it so. Because this administration made it so. I'm also a mother, Jen Psaki. I'm also a mother, and I care about these children. And I've spent time in Guatemala, and I've spent time traveling along the U.S. Mexico border, and I know these kids, and I know what they've been through. And believe me, it does them no good to be coming here. And many times our government places them in homes we can't even validate that they're the actual parents. And let's not even talk about human trafficking and child sex trafficking. I want you to think about that, because those kids, a lot of them are being abused by adults that either they're on the road with or people that are bringing them into the United States and putting them into human trafficking situations and sex trafficking situations. These kids are street kids, a lot of them, and they know how to play the system to get in, and they are terrified. And the reason they play the system is because they don't want to be outed, right? They don't want to get, some of them may be traveling with or meeting someone in the United States who is going to sell them, right? And don't you ever think that they have relatives back home? What do you think MS-13 does when one of these kids, and some of them are being brought in as MS-13, they're going to be put in high schools and they're going to be sent there specifically to sell drugs for MS-13 and for different gangs. I can tell you that. I know that. What do you think is going to happen if one of those kids reacts against them, decides not to do it, decides to run off, decides to run away? You know what they do? They kill their families back home. That's what they do. This situation is a mess. And it's becoming more of a mess every single day. And there are a lot of people out there that know it. And this is the reason why now you're hearing Democratic lawmakers like Gonzalez come out and say, you know what, enough is enough. My community can't handle this. Our country cannot handle this. We need to find a better way around this. And I hope that as I bring these stories to you guys, that maybe we find a way to resolve this together. I mean, this is really a crisis that we all need to be paying attention to. I hope you write your lawmakers. I hope you tell them how you feel, even if they're Democrats. Write them, tell them, because there is information out there, and we can see it now. There's a backlash on the Biden administration because of this, and I'm going to tell you this: if we don't stop it, it's going to get far worse. That tsunami is going to hit our nation like you can't even imagine. And these poor children are going to be the biggest victims of it all with the United States citizens. I mean, this is the reason why we've got to pay attention to stories like this. I will come back to you from the U.S. Mexico border, hopefully next week. I look forward to, sharing these stories with you all the time. And remember, when you go on to wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a review and let me know what you're concerned with. You can also go on Twitter and chat with me there. I read through all of your Twitter comments. I try to, at least the majority of them, at Sara Carter DC on Twitter. Remember, I'm on Parler at Sara Carter Official. You can also find me at saracarter.com. There you can get all of my contact information, including my emails. I want to hear about the stories that mean something to you. And I want to get out there. I want to investigate them, and I want to share the results of those investigations with you so that you and I together can make a difference. Again, thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I look forward to bringing more to you next week. And remember, right here is where we're taking the story back. Our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. Mike created the new Giza Dream bed sheets. They're amazing. I use them. I love them. You will receive 2 for one low price plus free shipping. Call 1-800-685-7221. Use the promo code Carter. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Weber, the CEO of the Association for Mature American Citizens, also known as AMAC. For the upcoming year, what are some of the biggest topics of advocacy for members?
As an organization that represents Americans 50 and over, we recognize that Social Security is such an important component to seniors' income. And so we also recognize that for someone my age, for example, Social Security, I may not see my entire benefit unless something is done soon. So we promise to fight to keep Social Security solvent. We've got what's called the AMAC Social Security Guarantee. Information is found on our website. We're also pushing for transparency in healthcare. We want to eliminate surprise billing. Sara, another great proposal that we have out there, which has got over 22 co-sponsors now, is AMAC's pro bono healthcare bill, which essentially allows doctors to take a healthcare deduction and provide doctor services to individuals that are currently on Medicaid. We project that it could save billions of dollars in Medicaid, but also it provides for those lower income folks to have and build a real doctor-patient relationship.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm honored to have you and AMAC as a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. For more information, folks, visit amac.us/Carter.